Hello and welcome to my review of the new Panasonic 25mm F1.7. This is a new fast normal lens for the Micro Four Thirds system with a very low price. Is this lens a great bargain or just a cheap lens with too many compromises? Lens is rather big compared to other Micro Four Thirds lenses. It's only slightly smaller than the Panasonic 25mm F1.4, and it's about 1 centimeter longer than the Olympus 25mm 1.8. The mount of the lens is made of metal, but the rest of the lens is made of plastic. But overall the build quality is okay. Nothing to worry about. The focus ring is also well damped and comes supplied with a lens hood. And in the box, besides the lens and the lens hood, there's only the manual. The autofocus is fast and it's quiet, but it's not completely silent, but quiet enough that in most situations you don't have to worry about the noise. The lens has an f-stop of 1.7. Sometimes the f-stop number, the theoretical light transmission, differs from the real light transmission, the t-stop. I did some comparison shots with other lenses, my Essilor Magic 12mm T1.6. These were not scientific tests and the lenses didn't have the same focal length, so take this result with a grain of salt. But I think the new Panasonic 25mm F1.7 has a t-stop that is nearly T1.7, so there's not a big difference between the f-stops and t-stops right open, which is very good. There's slight vignetting visible in the WAR files, but nothing drastic, so don't worry about it. The WAR images of the Panasonic 25mm 1.7 show a slight amount of barrel distortion. However, most of the time you will not notice it. It is also autocorrected if you shot JPEG, and most WAR converters also autocorrect it. I had a chance to test the flare resistance due to the weather, so most of my tests have been with artificial light. That being said, it seems that the Lumix 25mm is pretty resistant to flares even without the lens hood. There are two kinds of chromatic aberrations. There are longitudinal aberrations, which appear to transition between sharp and unsharp, and the other type are lateral aberrations, which appear in areas of high contrast, especially at the corners. The worst lateral aberrations you can get is a slight purple fringing in extreme cases, but it's already corrected in JPEG files and should not be a problem for most WAR converters. Longitudinal aberrations are quite common with fast lenses. The strong aberrations of this kind were my only complaint with the Olympus 25mm. The Panasonic 25mm also suffers from them, but while I did not do a comparison, it seems the Panasonic might fare a little bit better than the Olympus. Most people will mainly be interested in how sharp this lens is. To test this, I compared it with the Panasonic 14 to 140mm lens. For this test, I mounted my OMD on a tripod, released the shutter via the Olympus app on my phone. The camera was also set to electronic shutter, stabilization off, ISO 200. So there shouldn't have been any trouble with shutter shock, camera shake, and so on. I shot all images in RAW and exported them to JPEG with DxO Optics Pro in the setting no corrections, which means the images are a bit less sharp than out of a camera JPEGs would be. And of course, all images I'm showing you are 100% crops. Let's start with the image center. At f1.7, the Panasonic 25mm is already as sharp as the 14 to 140mm at f5.6. Also, if you step the 25mm down to f5.6, it is noticeably sharper than the 14 to 140mm. The result at the image border is a little bit worse. While images at f1.7 are still usable, they show some softness, and the corners are not as good as the corners of the images of the 14 to 140mm at f5.6. The good news is, once you stop the 25mm down, also to f5.6, it's again sharper than the Panasonic 14 to 140mm. I did another test close to infinity, handheld this time, and it shows that at f1.7 the center is already very sharp again, and the borders are also usable, but again softer than step down. These images also show the amount of CAs the Lumix 25mm might exhibit in the corners. So what's the conclusion regarding sharpness? In real-world shooting, there's nothing wrong with the sharpness of the Panasonic Lumix G 25mm F1.7. The comparison with the Panasonic 14 to 140mm is also positive. The Panasonic 25mm is usable wide open, and stop down it's sharper than a zoom lens. Taking its price into consideration, this is a very good result. The Panasonic 25mm can focus as close as 25 cm, which is identical to the Olympus 25mm and a little closer than the Panasonic Leica 25mm F1.7 is able to focus. While this is close enough in most cases, it does not allow for real macro pictures. Let's talk about the bokeh. If you like the bokeh of a lens or not is to a strong degree a matter of individual taste. What I can say is that the highlights in the bokeh are circular, wide open, as well as step down, but in my opinion they look a bit better wide open. There are also rare cases of onion rings in the highlights. Overall, in my opinion, the bokeh of the Panasonic 25mm is not exceptional, but still pleasant. Because of the fast aperture of f1.7, the Panasonic 25mm is well suited for taking pictures and videos indoors without flash or on lit streets at night. My conclusion about the new Panasonic Lumix 25mm f1.7. There are a few things that one might criticize about the Panasonic. It doesn't have OIS, which users who shoot videos in Panasonic bodies will miss. But to be fair, even the more expensive primes from Panasonic do not have OIS, as Panasonic seems to implement OIS only into zoom lenses and telephoto primes. You might criticize that the lens is made of plastic, but there's nothing wrong with the build quality, and this makes the lens very light. Of course, it would have been nice if the corners were sharper wide open, but the images are usable and the center performance is already very good at f1.7. So what's my conclusion? If you already own the Panasonic Leica 25mm f1.4 or the Olympus 25mm f1.8, you can ignore the new Panasonic 25mm. But if you don't own a 25mm lens, I highly recommend that you get the Panasonic 25mm f1.7. Because it is so inexpensive, it is a great bargain, and I'm sure in the future this will be the first prime lens that many new Micro Four Thirds users will buy. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Last but not least, I'm going to show you some example pictures and videos. Until next time, bye.